next speaker, Rajdeep, and the talk of the day by him would be on driving zero trust policies in Kubernetes. Well, Rajdeep is currently working as a Senior Technical Lead DevOps at Lenskart. He would like to learn, talk, participate in most of the DevOps activities, and he's enthusiastic about driving all the automations. In his spare time, he likes to listen to music, play TT, and practice new technology by creating demos. And he's getting a really great found, on developing these cloud platforms, containers, Kubernetes, terraforms, and many other such cloud native architectures as well. With that, I would like to give a warm welcome to Rajdeep Bhattacharya.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Savita. Hi, good morning, all. Yeah, first I'd like to confirm my audio is clear.
Yes, you're audible.
Great, and my screen is visible.
Yes, you're going to put up your screen, right? Yes, I think you're back now.
Great, my screen is visible to all.
Yes, you are visible. Yeah.
Great. Hi. Yeah, Savita, you said something?
Yeah, I'm asking, did you share your slides up? Not yet, right?
Yeah, I did share it. Oh, just a minute. Let me share it again.
They are coming up. Yes, now we can see your screen.
Cool.
Yeah, we're good to start now. Yes.
Great. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining in for the talk. Really happy to be here, and really happy to talk on policy management. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am Rajdeep Bhattacharya, as Savita already mentioned. Leading the DevOps effort at Lenskart, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I always like to discuss about DevOps, automation, cloud native technologies. To feel free to reach me there. So, discussing about the topic, for today, which is zero trust policy, and this is something which comes, and the first thing that's asked that don't we have to trust our internal employees, right? And this is something which comes as a trust issue or a culture issue, right? But as the technologies are evolving, we are moving to the world of continuous integration, continuous delivery, deployment, right? And we are moving to the likes of Kubernetes, which is very fast picking up pace, and we are moving to the world of cloud technologies, cloud platforms. Slowly it's becoming very important that we set up some standards, right? Standards, operating procedure, or the policies, right? So if you have to explain what is a zero trust policy, I mean, there's something where less or no human interventions are allowed in the way we operate our day-to-day business, right? Or our day-to-day tech stack. So people join in to the team, they leave the team, or there are internal employees who get access. Nowadays, most of the companies are going towards shared responsibility models, right, where we trust our team, and teams are driven by KRAs, OKRs, where they all are driving towards a common goal. And it's very important that we give ample amount of accesses, right, to the team, so that they can basically run, right? We don't want, it's not like an old culture or a place where we are restricting the teams. It's about giving them free hand, right? And you will be seeing that most of the technology stacks are targeted towards that, like giving them access, ample amount of access. But here we are talking about a controlled access, right? So Why? Because I mean, like, see, humans are biased, right? I mean, like, they can have some, inclination of bypassing the system or the processes, right? And if you go ahead and you keep on replicating the same thing again and again, there is a possibility that humans do make mistakes, right? And a single mistake or a bunch of cascading effects, they can lead to a system compromise. And that is one of the reasons why with Kubernetes becoming so popular, it is also one of the most targeted platforms for any external hackers to go ahead and compromise the whole system, right? So uh, so basically, there has to be bunch of policies driven by the security DevSecOps team or the DevOps team, whatever the composition of the team is, to basically drive in some sort of compliance into the system. Why it becomes very important? Because recently, the CNCF body, they decided to deprecate the PSP or the pod security policies, keeping this as like an external extendable component, where you will have the freedom to basically put this as a wrapper rather than Kubernetes taking care of it. And this will be deprecated from 1.21, which is already a beta, and 1.25, it will be phased off. So it's a high time that we start thinking about policy driven approach in Kubernetes. And this is something I would say it's not specific to Kubernetes, although this talk is targeted towards Kubernetes. But this is something which is a general practice. Be it if you are not even on Kubernetes, even let's suppose that you are on a data center environment or you are on a cloud environment, it doesn't matter. I think these are the basic hygienes that you need to follow. So as I mentioned, why zero trust policy in Kubernetes, right? So already 1.21 it's getting deprecated. So as I mentioned already, that as the size, the best thing about Kubernetes is that once you get that a piece of software up and running, I mean, like, it's a real velocity tool, right? And you just need to put the things in correct place, and it can really kick off. The velocity of the teams can really kick off from there, right? uh, but as soon as things start to reach at a point where there is too many deployments going on, or lot many people joining in the organization, it slowly can become a point where things are slowly starting to fall apart in terms of the compliance, right? uh, Developers might create their own manifest where they are not following some standards, or they are creating a Docker image, or they're pulling a Docker image from some non-standard registry, right? So I mean, like, this is something where the security team or the compliance team come into the picture to basically implement some sort of gatekeeper, giving them ample amount of access, but it's maintaining some hygiene, right? And that is where policy management becomes super critical for any company. If you can start it from the early stages, that's really awesome. Even if you are an enterprise company, I mean, like, you can start small, right? You can start targeting and slowly maturing it, piece by piece, or compliance by compliance. And by the way, I mean, like, if you are an enterprise, you need to take care of the audits, right? Be it your GDPR or SOX 2 or whatnot. I mean, like, these things get factored into these compliance reports, right? As auditor, they need these checks and bounds. It cannot be an open access, right? And to tell you, I mean, like the risk is more internal than external, right, in the modern age. So I mean, like give your teams the ample amount of freedom they need, but drive it with all the checks and bounds. Same, I think I already mentioned this, that driving shared responsibility model, give them the access with compliance, right? Another thing that's, super important is that, as most of the companies, are going for the velocity, right? And, uh, releasing these changes, you might have, let's say, uh, when you are growing as a company, right, you might have x number of clusters, not just one, right? And you might be having x number of environments. You might be having some your site office network. You might be having your corporate network. You might be having some of your cloud infrastructure network. There might be multi-tenant architecture, and on top of that you might be having Kubernetes, right? So it's good to bring in practices where your policies are reproducible as much as possible, right? And it's always good to drive policy as code, right, rather than using some GUI screen and to click, right? I mean, like there I mean it works, but uh, the operational cost is too high there, right? And there, as I already mentioned, I mean, like uh, the manual efforts are, they tend to cause issue in the system, right? So keep it more and more automation driven. Drive it with the policy as code, and if it's on a GitOps model, that's super, right? And that is something what we drive at Lenskart, where we do this policy management. We are yet not completely there, but we have started implementing policy management as code into our system. Right? So some of the as this talk is centric to Kubernetes, I'll be keeping my focus over there. So some of the things that you can target into Kubernetes, where you can set up the policies, are like pod resources, right? Uh, Pod security, network security, storage, tagging, role-based access control. These are some of the cases where basically you can put some checks and bounds, put some hygiene, right? I'll give you an example. uh, in most of the companies, I've seen that tagging is something which lacks very much. And tagging, although does seem like a very very small thing, but trust me, it has a lot of impact. You can drive a lot of stats, you can drive a lot of cost assessment, you can take a lot of business decisions just on the basis of tags, right? And that's where you need to be putting up some standards or policies where nothing goes into your Kubernetes cluster without having a proper tag. Just make sure of that. Apart from that, as in a multi-tenant or even a single managed service, or even a hosted or a self-managed Kubernetes cluster, right? Network security is something which is super critical. Even not even just in Kubernetes, even in the cloud cloud environments, right? Because one missing out one ingress rule can be an easy target for any sniffer to basically create a hole in your to enter in your network, right? Pod security, right? And some, pod security, as in Kubernetes, we are talking in terms of pod, we are talking in terms of the containers inside the pod. It becomes, super critical to basically, protect, or, what is baked inside your pod. Any leaked or vulnerable version of software running inside it, or somebody basically injecting their backdoor inside your container, and they getting access to all the data. uh, this is something, where a policy management tool or policy management engine can really block the things from actually going into your Kubernetes system, right? And this is something which has to be driven in your pipeline, or at least you can start with the having this implemented on the overall cluster across namespaces, and then slowly driving it in your pipeline, so that things are controlled even before rolling out to the infrastructure. So the different levels of it, but you can start with small, right? Just implement it. Just start with some basic, restricting on tagging your pod resources, right? That every resource should have a valid name, every resource should have their health checks defined, and all these kind of things, right? Depends on what service you are, or container you are deploying, right? But go ahead, with implementing these small, and slowly, increasing the granularity of your policies to increase the coverage day on day, right? To make it a really robust system, right? These are some of the tools. When I was researching about this topic, these are some of the tools that I found, and some of them I have personally used as well. One of them is Kiverno, right? And it's a policy management framework, and it is focused on Kubernetes, and really solid tool. And you know uh, there are a set of templates, and it's completely declarative, and you can basically implement it easily as a code, and in your pipeline they also have a CLI to help you embed this into your CI/CD pipeline, right? Next tool is your open policy agent. Now this tool is very interesting. Actually, I would say that I have just explored it, and this kind of an you can say like an open framework for policy management, right? And it's not specific to Kubernetes, and it can be extended to other tools as well, like Terraform, or your cloud infrastructures like AWS, or Google Cloud, and whatnot, right? Same is the case with Calico. Calico is more focused on your network side policy management, and it here you can basically restrict all the ingress and egress traffic, right? And control the access, of what's moving in and out of your network, and make and bound it to service to service communication, right? HashiCorp Console is another fantastic tool, which is really getting a lot of traction uh, uh, among the cloud native architectures, where this is simply used as again a network policy management tool, where you can restrict your service to service communication, and also have a control over the traffic movement in the mesh, right? So another fantastic set of tools. For this talk, I am focusing on Kyverno, right? And which we are also using at Lenskart to bring in policy management into our system. So let's first see what Kyverno looks like internally. So here is the architecture diagram of Kyverno. I use this from their site as a reference here. Uh, so uh, so Kyverno basically helps you validate, mutate, and also generate your uh, Kubernetes objects. So it also has an extended support for actually creation of the objects. So that's a very advantageous, because usually what we see, most of the frameworks, they act till the mutate point. They will give you the feedback, and that's it, you are done, right? I mean, like, it also helps you to whatever gets passed through it, it will help you provision that object as well, right? And here basically you can also the major advantage with any policy management framework is that you can also do uh, you can read their events, and you can generate a lot of alerts, and you can also integrate this with some webhook as well, to push it to your Slack or your Google Chat, whatever, to basically see what the violation was, right? And there is a proper review process where the first level of review is happening via Keywork, right? So it also saves you from a repetitive compliance checking. So the Kyverno framework is already doing that for you, right? And it also helps to whatever violation is there, it will straight away check that manifest ingestion, and report it back to you with a valid error message, right? Or things you need to correct to reach that particular level of standard, right? And then roll out the object. So here, this whole thing I would be showing you as a demo, to make you understand uh, how you can do this, right? And by the way, Kyverno also supports CRDs, or custom resource definitions. So you can create your own policies. You can extend whatever has been exposed, or the standard definitions which Kyverno has given at their site, and you can basically create your own, right? You can create something specific to application, or something something which you want to add, which is already not there. So that's the great thing about it, right? So so let's pray to the demo gods everything goes well. uh, so let me go to my VS Code, right? For this demo purposes, I'm using Kubernetes 1.18. So I am running this on my local Minikube cluster. So let's go ahead and first set up a Kubernetes on my Minikube cluster. I'm using Helm chart to basically do that. Let me update the repo. Cool. I want to deploy it in the Kyverno namespace so that I don't conflict it with other objects. And here I'm installing my Helm chart. Oh, I think I might have already set this up. So I think my resource already exists. So sorry about that. I think, yeah. Yeah, so it already exists in my namespace. Cool. So I'm going to skip this, as I already set this up, guys. But you can use this to basically install your Kyverno Helm chart. Let's see if my Oh, let me just maybe I think my chart is already there. Yeah, let me just go through it. Probably if there are any questions I can take in the middle. Or probably if there are issue with the Helm charts, I can probably go and use my.
I think we have one question. Does policy
Okay.
as code in Kubernetes make sense for any kind of business?
Absolutely, and that's a very fair question actually. So in business, basically, right? If you are, let's say, how can this impact your business, right? If suppose uh, let's go with the example of resource management, right? If suppose let's say that you don't define resource for for your service, right? It can go ahead and consume x number of memory or x amount of cpu, right, before it actually maybe bring down your complete cluster. So right, so here you are basically enforcing any user to uh, put your resource restrictions in place, so that you are keeping checks and bounds on what gets consumed, right? So if you don't do it, what can happen is that uh, it can result your service actually choking your complete cluster, or it can be a cost saving exercise where actually you are enforcing this policy so that they don't go ahead and let's suppose that you release a code, right, and you had some memory leak issues in that service. So if you don't restrict it, right, it can go ahead and hog your system with ample amount of memory, right? And that you don't want, and that is something either you can you can have you can do keep a track of things manually, which is not feasible as you go ahead. uh, but if you have some policy management framework, then probably you can just go ahead and your policy management framework will be taking care of all those things. That's just one use case, right? There can be many other use cases, because if talking about in terms of the business security, let's suppose that your service is compromised because somebody used a non-standard image, right? Now that's a business impact for you, right? If somebody, data is so important nowadays, right? If somebody went ahead and basically created a hole in your network and he's actually slipping all your data outside, that's a business impact, right? You don't want non-standard repositories, so basically creating some malicious code into a network, and they basically doing some bitcoin mining or something else, right? So I think these are some of the cases. There can be many other cases that I can think of. I hope that answered. Any other question? Okay, let me see if we are good. Okay, sorry guys, my role binding was already there. So so there are two ways you can do it: by Helm chart, or you can use the manifest to basically set this up. I use the manifest, and it has created my service account config map, service and deployment, right? Uh, so let me just show it to you all as well. Okay, so let me give it a more granular view. Yeah, so this something which it looks like, although my one of the pods is crashing. Let's give it some more time to basically come up. Let me delete it and see if that helps. That is why it is very mandatory to pray to the demo gods, but sometimes doesn't work. So we'll take it, no problem. I think it is giving some initialization error. Still restarting. Sweta, time check, please.
I guess you can use 5 more minutes.
Okay, I can take up if there are any more questions.
Yeah, if you can highlight more on, policy as a code, versus your GUI, as you mentioned, right? So what are the key aspects which a user can look forward on that?
Hmm. Yeah, sure. I mean, like if my demo doesn't go through, I'll probably show as it as a code. Yeah, sorry about that. I think there is some, something, some overlapping things that are there, as my
Okay.
Helm chart didn't install properly. So I can probably show it here, right? What I was trying to highlight, it would have been better if I had shown the complete demo, but I mean, it's okay. So here, in the Kyverno engine, I mean, like it's based. So what I meant by policy as a code. So here you will have a manifest file, right? Here I'm interacting with the uh, uh, Cube API, API server, where this CRD is installed of Kyverno, and this is a cluster policy definition. So whatever I have set up, this is applied to all the namespaces, right? So it's a standard definition. And what I have mentioned here is that every container that's created inside the pod will have a name. It has to have a memory and CPU limit, right? For limits and request, right? So somebody, when trying to create any pod, something like this, right? So here I have used a pod manifest file where I didn't declare anything, right? And that's the majorly the mistake that developers or whoever is creating the pod definition would do, that they will not go ahead and basically create the definitions of the resources, right? And that's when if this is not taken into picture. And this example is very apt. So what I'm doing here, I'm just stressing out the system, right? I'm someone who is not happy with the system, right? And I'll just go ahead and run this container. What it might do, right? It might bring down my whole system, right? And wherever it will run based on the replica set, it might bring down the whole, complete cluster. That is the potential it has. So this is a clear business impact that you might have. Now, what can I do about it? I can restrict it using Kevin, right? I can basically not allow this manifest to get rolled out, and straight away be declined to that point. And what next can happen? The developer or whoever's writing the manifest will come out with these numbers, right? He will have to declare this memory and the CPU limit. And even if he tries to DOS me or stress me out, I mean, like, you can't, right? You can't, because this already defined. The worst it can happen is this: it will take the maximum of this and basically crash. So this is the power that you have. You can have a control on all the resources from a central location, and that's what policy helps you drive in, right? So I think that's what I had. These are some of the references, yeah, I've used for my talk, and I've also published my demo. So sorry about that, guys. The demo didn't go as planned. Sometime it happens, right? So you can use my this GitHub link to basically run your this complete demo on your laptop. You can just use Minikube or any other cluster, whichever you have spinware, right? Some other references to the other projects, right? And by the way, a shameless promotion that we are also hiring at Lenskart at different roles. So feel free to apply or just connect with me. I'll be happy to help you. So any other final questions that I can take in just 1 or 2 minutes, Savita?
Well, I think you answered most of the question. We don't see any new questions.
Okay, cool. Thank you
So,
guys for your time. Thank you.